Hello and welcome to Record Sports Wednesday Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Conn. I'm delighted to be joined for the second night running by Record Sports Scott McDermott and Fraser Wilson. Guys, how are you?
It's hod it and dod it again tonight, Daniel.
Always delighted, Daniel, isn't he? Delighted, Daniel. Daniel delighted, go.
Back by popular demand. Fans wouldn't have it any other way.
I'll crack your jokes.
Right, I think just talking off air, I'd said to the guys that I think we'd start on Rangers tonight to get away from the Celtic transfer news, and I think this is a good place to start. Renton has written in response to the news about Cantwell and Hadji, the ongoing sagas around them. He said, "We can't even give our players away. Well, Celtic sell fringe players like O for $2.5 million, Mikey Johnson $2.5 million, Lowell $2 million, Haksabanovic $2 million, Siegrist $1 million. Don't know about that, to be fair. And Kobayashi for $1 million. That's 11 million quid. And yet, Rangers, Scott, they can't give Hadji away. And the numbers getting thrown about for Cantwell. We could have a whip round and get him for the fives team.
Honestly, the guy's right. And this has been bugging me for a while about Rangers. Just an inability to be able to bring in proper fees for players that are maybe not out of the first team or ready to move on, it just, as you say, the Hadji thing is fascinating because here's a guy who was playing at the Euros in the summer for Romania, fully fit, contracted. We know, although nobody for Rangers has come out and admitted it, but we're fairly certain that he's got a clause in his deal that if he plays one more game, he gets a big wage hike. There might even be money has to go to Genk or whatever. But Hadji's come out today and said, look, well, he's hinted that no, there can be a way around that because he's just desperate to play. Now, this is a boy that was when Rangers won the league, and I know that was 3 years ago now, but he was the highest assist maker in the Scottish Premiership. A key player for them domestically and in Europe. Now, he got a bad injury and he's obviously struggled a bit coming back from injury. Initially didn't quite look the same player, but after a loan spell, which was probably the right thing to do initially, he's come back, as I say, went to the Euros for his country and now seems to be being treated like a complete outcast by the club. Now, I'm not saying he's going to come into Rangers midfield and solve all their problems and make sure they put up a title challenge this year. But in terms of the way he's been treated, it seems to me that his value is depreciating every day. So if you've decided, whenever it was, that this guy wasn't part of the plans, surely you have to somehow keep him involved or keep him playing, to keep his value relatively high. And then when it comes to actually moving him on, I've said this to you before, Danny, that is a key part, almost an unseen part of the director of football, head of recruitment's job. Everybody talks about, sporting directors and head of recruitments as if it's all about signing players. A huge part of that job is having an ability to get clubs coming in to buy your players and get decent fees for them. Celtic have done it incredibly well, as you've highlighted there. But to be sitting here now thinking about, as you say, Bosun Lawal, a B team player at Celtic, going to an English Championship club for a couple of million. Mikey Johnson, who with all due respects, I think Mikey Johnson's a good player, but out the picture at Celtic, they're going to pick up another $2.5 million for Sheffield United. For Rangers to be touting Hadji about almost as a free transfer just to get rid of him, just to get off the books, just strikes me as mismanagement. It's just wrong. And Cantwell's another one. We're seeing fees getting bandied about today, 500 grand. We were laughing off air, obviously, the clip that's doing the rounds on social media for 3 years ago when Aston Villa were reportedly in for Cantwell and the Norwich asking price was between 40 and 50 million. I mean, it's laughable now, but to me, there's a serious point in there in terms of whatever you think he Cantwell, he's under contract to Rangers. His numbers, I've seen his numbers today in terms of goals and assists, actually pretty decent the last year and a half he's been there, probably better than I thought. He's got a decent reputation in England. Rangers should have people in place who are qualified and experienced enough to be able to get these players off the books, but bring in decent money for them.
Mm-hmm.
And if the two of them go for next to nothing, the board or maybe even fans, people at the club might think, well, it's just a case of getting them out. We need to get the wages down, whatever. But I think if they two guys go with their age profile and the talent they've got for less than $1 million, maybe less than $500,000 between them, that just seems ridiculous to me. I don't know what Fraser thinks about it.
It's hard to disagree with any of that. The Hadji one in particular, I find really strange. I can't quite get my head around it. I think we're led to believe it's kind of the way Philippe Clement wants to play. It doesn't have that high intensity to get about the part that Philippe Clement's wanting to demand from every player he has. But one thing Yanis Hadji does have is that magic to turn the game. Whether he's playing in that kind of number 10 role or whether it's out wide, I think he's shown it. Like you said before he got that injury again, it was Stirling Albion, wasn't it? A League Cup game against a Scottish Cup game against Stirling Albion. Before then, I thought it was one of Rangers' most dangerous players, and that's why they shelled out to bring him back in after his loan spell. So when you look at that Rangers squad right now, I don't see many game changers in there. I certainly never thought Todd Cantwell was one. We'll come on to him in a minute. But I think in Yanis Hadji, they've got one, and he's just sitting there doing nothing. So if you can't bring in money for him, which I agree with Scott is bizarre, because again, I thought he showed up well in the Euros for a decent Romania side.
Aye.
Then I don't understand why Rangers aren't using them. Strange use of social media last night. Always think when these statements come out for players on social media, there's more going on behind the scenes. Is that his representatives telling them to wording it for him, putting pressure on the club? I don't know what that's all about, but there's certainly never been any hint that he's a bad egg. So that taking everything into account, I'm just staggered that Rangers aren't making use of the guy when he's fit. Todd Cantwell, never been a fan really, to be honest. Did they cost a penny? Well, I suppose it is surprising when you see the money Celtic are making out of their fringe players. Mikey Johnson, what a great bit of business if you get £2.5 million for somebody that's never been a regular. But Todd Cantwell, if you make any sort of profit in Todd Cantwell, I think to get him off the books, he's not got a future at the club. He's not been good enough. Simple as that.
Sorry, a couple of things. Fraser saying about Mikey Johnson and Celtic fringe players. And that's saying Cantwell isn't a fringe player at Rangers. Up until recently, he was a regular first team starter. Mm-hmm. So whatever's happened has happened. It's fine if Clement's decided he has to go or that's fine. But you still need to be able to demand command a fee.
Scott, see, it's a buyer's market, right? So if some clubs are aware that Rangers are, if they are on the verge of selling for $500,000, why is nobody coming in with $750,000?
I know. But the thing is, that's the thing, Fraser. I don't think where I think Rangers have handled it badly. They've almost made it so obvious that they're just dying to get this guy off the books and they'll accept anything for him. I just don't think that's the right way to go up. You need to keep players' values up. I mean, if you're a buying club and you're looking at the Rangers situation and you're looking at how they've treated Hadji, he's playing with the B team. You're looking at Cantwell, he's not even training, he's not even playing with the B team. Why are you going to offer serious money for him? You're just going to sit and wait, evaluate it, and get him for as low as price as you possibly can. Maybe even nothing if it gets to deadline day and they're just so desperate to get him away. And just on Hadji, you're talking about the difference between the two. And I think there is a big difference in terms of attitude. I think as soon as Hadji arrived at Rangers, the thing that impressed me, as well as his kind of obvious talent, was actually his attitude and his work rate. I thought for a foreign player when he came in, especially a young foreign player who was like highly regarded, highly rated, I was really impressed with his work rate and his attitude. Honestly, for a guy that was seen as a kind of flair player, see in terms of his working back, and he wasn't scared to get in for tackles. He was willing to put a shift in. And I think that almost shows in this Instagram post that he put out last night. It's as if Haji's become so frustrated, and he's almost been painted as a guy that is chuck the towel in, put the tools away, and doesn't want to be part of it. It feels to me that he's become frustrated with that and felt that he had to say something. And listen, I go back to it. I'm not saying Yanis Hagi's Rangers saviour and they should get him back in the team and everything's going to be rosy. But the way the club's dealt with that whole situation and how, in terms of where it's ended up and the fee that they might get, or non-fee that they might get in for a guy who was playing at a European Championships in the summer that's baffling to me, honestly.
It's staggering. I completely agree with that. You just, players like that, you sort of, through dealing with them maybe post-match, pre-match, and obviously watching them in the park, you get a sense of what they're all about, Scott, don't you? And like you, I got the impression that Yanis Hagi is a real deal, not just in terms on the pitch, but a right good professional as well. So I find this whole thing staggering, and as if Rangers are going to waste a real asset here.
See, when Mikey Johnson came back to Celtic after a loan move in the summer, and everybody in their dug knows Mikey Johnson's not going to be part of Brendan Rodgers' plans. But he didn't just outcast him, send him he's actually in the squad for the first couple of games of the season, on the bench. I think he came on at Easter Road in one of the games. So he was part of it. So if you're a buying club, you're seeing like this guy's, as a selling club, that puts you in a better position. You can go out and say, no, this guy's part of the plans. If we don't get the fee that we want for him, then we'll integrate him back in and he'll start playing again. Similar situation at Man City with Cancelo, who's completely out the picture with Guardiola, gets sent away to Barcelona, I think, on loan, and clearly isn't part of the future at Man City. Guardiola still brought him back for pre-season, still got him involved, and eventually they've got a fee. I think he's away to Saudi Arabia. So I just think it's the way Rangers have handled it. It could have been handled so much better, so much more amicably, and they might have actually got more money in for these players that they're trying to offload.
As you can probably
right now, going into an Old Firm derby right now on Sunday, would Rangers be stronger and have more threat if Yanis Hagi was in the squad? I simply think that's a yes.
I think
that's a yes as well. Aye. It probably won't surprise either of you that we've had a really strong reaction from folks watching at home, and if you are watching, please get involved in the comment section below. I'll run through a few of these guys. Blythe Majors watching live on YouTube. Rangers have devalued their own players. David Downey, I'd keep Hagi. A couple here as well. JV McAllister on Facebook. Of course, our valuation in players is low. They are Rangers players valued by whoever at the club who haven't got a clue what they're doing. And this one as well, which I thought was a pretty good point, Scott. Mark Bell, 600k he's going for, talking about Cantwell, obviously. Who are they going to buy with that sort of money? I mean, that's the other thing. Like, he's not going to be, he's not earning 100 grand a week that it's, I don't know, it just seems bizarre.
Before we come on, St Mirren are apparently bringing in 300 grand for an 18-year-old kid who's barely played a game for Wolves. So how can Rangers only be getting double that tops for a guy like Todd Cantwell that was playing the Premier League, was playing in Europe for Rangers last season? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And I'll tell you the other thing that might help with this, and this is no me with a journalist head on just wanting interviews or people to come out. I think for Rangers fans, it would help if they actually heard from Niels Coppen at some point, who's the head of recruitment, who seems to be the guy bringing all the players to Clermont, and who seems to be the guy that Clermont is relying on to try and get players out. Because let's be honest, there's nobody else there. There's no CEO, there's no sporting director. John Bennett, as chairman, can't do everything on his own. That's not his bag anyway, to do deals and negotiate contracts and get other players. It feels like Coppen is the guy. So it would help if he came out at some point, maybe it will be after the window's closed, and actually explain what's happened here with these players, what the strategy's been, and why they've not been able to get proper fees in for these guys that they want rid of.
Right, absolutely. Just before we move on from Rangers, in terms of incomings, the guy that keeps getting linked is Ibrahim Adel, who we mentioned yesterday, played well at the Olympics for Egypt. Thomas here writing in saying he was in the top 3 players at the Olympics. Would be really impressed if this is true. There's other offers from clubs who don't play in a poor league. I read today that apparently Adele has said he wants to go to Rangers. That's the reports, but he could cost anything up to £5 million. For his club at the minute is Pyramids FC, which, I mean, just sounds like a Football Manager team name. It sounds like it's been made up. But Rangers, I think it's safe to say, Scott, are not going to be paying fees like that in the coming days.
No chance. I mean, where are Rangers getting £5 million from?
10 times
the manager has come out and made it crystal clear no players will be coming in unless players go out, and that's almost like that might be. That's not necessarily about fees. That's about wages. So the boss linked to a French defender today at Hoffenheim, I think. And is it Hoffenheim? It is Hoffenheim, is it?
I think so. Aye.
And you would think that that's a case of, all right, Ben Davies goes out on loan. You'd imagine Birmingham are paying most of his wages or a large chunk of the wages. So Clement's maybe get a bit of money to play with there in terms of bringing somebody in. And he said himself that, no, he's actually said about getting players out on high wages and bringing players in on low wages. So he's admitting that he can't even do it like for like. No, if he gets a guy out the door who's earning 25 grand a week, the chances are the player coming in to replace him will only be on 15. Now, that's not a bad thing, by the way. You maybe get a younger player, more potential, you get him in a low wage, and eventually he obviously goes and flourishes and you get more money back. But no, I mean, £5 million for an Egyptian winger. I don't see that happening, Daniel, do you?
I don't see that happening at all. And I should say the Hoffenheim defender that you mentioned, there's Stanley NSoki, 25 years old. Yeah. I guess we'll see what happens between now and Friday.
He played on the
yeah.
And I get as well, you can make any player these days look, top class and highlight reels, but he does look like a really good player. So, I mean, you'd imagine that would strengthen Rangers, but between now and Friday, I guess we'll see. Time is a wee bit against us, guys, so I'm going to crack on. Of course, across the city at Celtic, there isn't a great deal to update. We ran the story on Record Sport online today about the fact that Celtic are only £1 million away in their valuation with Augsburg to sign Arne Engles, and they fully expect to break the transfer record at the club. Thomas Gray here says, expect 2-3 new signings for the end of the transfer window. The board owe it to Brendan Rodgers and the fans. They spend hard-earned money, including merchandise. If the board doesn't furnish Brendan Rodgers to strengthen the team, the board are going to have a lot of angry and very disappointed supporters. Fraser, I mean, that's Thomas pretty much sums that up there. That is exactly the state of play at Celtic.
That's the bottom line. It's not changed for 3 or 4 weeks now, or all summer even. There's a lot of cats chasing mice out there in the last few days of the transfer window. That's always the case, isn't it? But you get the impression, I do get the impression Celtic are ready to push a button on something big, and it might be Arne Engles. It might take a record transfer to bring him in, but the demand is there for the supporters for it to happen. And if it doesn't happen in the next 48 hours, we mentioned before, then there'll be hell to pay at Parkhead. So, what is that? I think Celtic are budged up closer to 9 million, but Augsburg, sorry, I was going to say Los Angeles there. Augsburg are wanting over 10, aren't they?
I think so, aye.
Well, look, he's got decent pedigree. I think was it 3 goals last season for that kind of attacking midfield area. Decent. Been used at full back on occasion, but it's certainly that sort of Matt O'Reilly role that Celtic are looking to fill, and he seems to be the man that they're pushing for. It's just where does agreement come in? I don't know. I've been out today in Hearts business, so I don't know how close they are, but it's certainly led to believe they're ready to push the boat out on it.
Well, it was
It's hard to see this deal not happening now, Dan, you want it?
Aye,
Because,
I was going to say that.
Negotiations have been on for a while now. It's became abundantly clear he's the main guy Brendan Rodgers wants to replace Matt O'Reilly. I think we can all be pretty sure of that. So as Fraser touched on there, I mean, as the caller touched on, it would be hugely disappointing for Celtic now if they come away for that deal without the player that they want. And then where do they start in terms of the next target? You'd like to think behind the scenes people will be working on other targets in case this doesn't happen. That would be the way to do it. But it would still be difficult with so few days and hours left in the window. So I don't know. I just get the feeling it will happen. They will break the transfer record for him, or club record for him. And we said it last night. I mean, Rodgers clearly feels this guy's got huge potential. I've not seen enough of it. I've seen clips, obviously, online, but I've not seen enough of him to put a judgment on him in terms of will he come in and do that job. But to spend that kind of money, as we said last night, for any Scottish club, even the Old Firm, it's a huge transfer fee. You're putting a huge faith in this young player, but Rodgers obviously believes in him. And as I say, the negotiations there and the things that you're hearing about it, there's obviously a bit of haggling going on, but I'd be amazed if this deal doesn't happen and he will be the big signing for Celtic, let's be honest, for that money.
Robert Wilson watching live on YouTube, as you can see on your screen, saying they went back in with a bid for 10 million. I guess we'll see if that comes to fruition. I should say as well that since we broadcast last night, guys, Celtic have completed one signing, the signing of left-back Alex Valle from Barcelona on loan for the rest of the campaign. I think Celtic are reportedly paying £1.3 million for the season, which will cover his wage. Do you think, Fraser, is this a new first choice left back to go on ahead of Greg Taylor? Do you think he'll just come in and start?
This is interesting, isn't it? I think the whole Greg Taylor thing's really interesting. Greg Taylor, a left back I rate so highly and always have ever since he was at Kilmarnock. Thought it was a great piece of business by Celtic. In terms of left backs in the Scottish Premiership, hard pressed to find better. So really interested to see what happens here. Barcelona are going to send them over to Celtic Park, not to be getting regular game time. What was it? Is it Levante last season on loan? Decent level, second tier of Spanish league, but he's never tasted European football, never mind Champions League football. So really interested to see what the dynamic is here and kind of who gets a nod for the bigger games. Taylor, I mean, I think Taylor's a solid left back both defensively and what he offers you going forward as you'll get in the Scottish Premiership. I've said that already. So whether Rodgers and wanting to take Celtic to that next level wants better in these positions, I don't know if that's why he's moved, but Alex Valle is untested, so I suppose the proof will be in the pudding, but I don't know. I think it was in the Spanish under-19 team that won the Euro Championships last year, and I read that he was in the team of the tournament for that as well, so he's clearly got ability. Look, he's come out of the Barcelona Academy, he's clearly got ability on the ball. It's just whether he can handle the demands of the Scottish League. But as I said, really interested in this. Greg Taylor, he's kind of one of that golden generation of left backs Scottish football's produced. And, you know, how many caps could they have if it wasn't for Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney? So, I'm really interested to see where this one goes, Daniel.
Aye. I do think as well, Scott, that it is interesting. We talked about in previous shows, Taylor's contract's up at the end of the season. There's no sign of it being renewed, which it does just seem peculiar. And just on what Fraser was saying there, Sean Allen has written in saying, this team would still win the league. I will wait till Friday to see what ambition the board has for Europe. If nothing there'll be a lot of unhappy fans. And I get there's a lot, you know, you could have a lot worse problems at Celtic, but that is the crux of the matter. It's all about how much ambition do you have?
I know. I do feel for Greg Taylor a wee bit because Fraser's right. He's been so steady for them, been a brilliant signing, but you just feel there's always been that caveat with supporters. They've always just said, is he good enough for Europe? No, is he kind of top top level.
Just on that, Scott, Mark Montgomery's just written in saying Taylor gets found out consistently in Europe.
There you go. I mean, that's always seems to be the quake, which is a bit harsh. I've seen them having good games in Europe, Europa League and Champions League, but that has always been the question, and there's no doubt that Celtic and Brendan Rodgers did need competition for Greg Taylor. No, they've not quite had it the last couple of seasons with Bernabe, who came in, didn't set the head on fire and is now left again. So Taylor's been brilliant for them, but you're right. I mean, that's the other element is Taylor's contract situation. It remains to be seen. It has been very quiet, unusually quiet. I thought that would have been an easy extension for Celtic to do. I think Brendan Rodgers said towards the end of last season that he was very keen to get him tied up again, and in a similar way to Liam Scales, actually, where you thought it would just be a natural extension, but it's not happened yet. They need competition. This boy's come in, as Fraser says, with a decent pedigree, albeit he's very young. And again, you would think, Barcelona's going to want to get him games. They want to see him playing them. They don't want to see him sitting on the bench in the Scottish Premiership every week. So you do wonder if there's, is there an agreement for a certain amount of games? Is there any pressure on Celtic to play him? It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. I think probably the truth will be both of them will get decent game time. You think the amount of games Celtic are going to have? 8 Champions League games, the domestic cups, the league games. I think the truth probably is that both of them will get decent game time. I expect Taylor, he's in situ, he's got the jersey. Valle will take a bit of time coming in. He's settling into a new club, new country, etc. So I expect Taylor to be the left back certainly for the next 2 or 3 weeks. But eventually there will be a wee bit of pressure, I think, on Brendan Rodgers to give this boy game time. And listen, it might be. I'm sure if you ask Greg Taylor, he would say he welcomes that kind of competition to keep him his toes, keep him improving. But as you say, the really interesting thing will be the contracts, the extension, when and if that will happen, because that's obviously going to have a big impact on things. Because if Greg Taylor's no staying at Celtic beyond this season, and I find that hard to believe, but if he's no, then he might find he plays less games, and the Spanish boy plays a bit more.
I should say that we've got plenty of comments coming in all the time, and thank you if you sent them in. Martin McGarrigle's followed up Mark Montgomery and saying Celtic's Taylor doesn't have what it takes to bring Celtic to the next level in Europe. I think that's pretty harsh, but I guess time will tell.
I sort of agree with that, and that's what I meant when Rodgers maybe wanting to raise every level, right? It does get targeted in certain European games, and the odd time he's played, right. It does get targeted a bit with whether it's players, whether it's opposition looking to play in his height even. So I could understand that at the very top level, Champions League level, if that's why Rodgers is looking to bring in a new left back. But this boy's untested. So as I said, the proof will be in the pudding whether he's ready to be the first choice. And whoever gets the nod for the Champions League games, I suppose that'll be our answer. Aye.
The time is a wee bit against us, guys, but I want to talk about Hearts because, Fraser, you were at Tynecastle today to hear Steven Naismith ahead of tomorrow's crucial Europa League qualifier against Viktoria Plzen. Before we come on to that, let's hear a bit about what the Hearts manager had to say.
Well, the quick turnaround for the games. There's not much training. We'll give it as long as possible and we'll see how it is.
Is this something that happened on Sunday?
Yeah. So he's reported it after the game. There was a few other bumps and knocks, but he's the only one that came out yesterday today on the pitch.
What criticism coming your way as well from the fans? Do you feel like that's merited?
When you're not winning games, there's going to be criticism. I think it's something, and especially being at a club beside the Hearts, continuously go on about the demand. If you don't win games, you'll be criticised, and that's the case. As I've said before in the past, I'm comfortable with that. I think we have got a good group of players that can be successful. We need to cut out the soft goals and probably take more of our chances that we've created.
What about Pilsen and what do you expect from them?
I think it'll be a similar game to last week, but I think even before last week's game, as I called it, I thought the game was like it was two teams that when they have the ball try and work an opportunity. We probably took a wee bit more time than them to settle into the game last week. But then when we did, I thought we caused them problems. We need to be defensively better than we have been. I think last week we were up to the very last moment, but they've got dangerous players that can cause you problems. I think the late goal, it doesn't change the tie that much. We're always going to need to score this week to go through. But again, as I've said before, against Rosenborg last year when we came here, we got a setback early in the game, but we still fought and come out with the result. If we can start well, get the crowd behind us, then we could have an hard night like Rosenborg, I'm sure.
Fraser.
Great camera work that, eh?
I was going to say, whoever was behind that, I need to speak to them. But, Fraser, I think it's fair in saying that Hearts now, 4 games this season, 0 wins. Naismith is under pressure, but Plzen didn't look like, the class outfit I thought they would be last week. They look beatable.
Absolutely, aye. They're there. The game's there to be won for Hearts, and they know that. That's why the pressure cranks up even more tomorrow. Might be a Europa League playoff that in better times might have been a wee bit of a free hit. Not tomorrow night. The fans know this is winnable. The fans know Hearts aren't playing well enough, aren't carrying a goal threat incredibly, and Steven Naismith carries a can. So a bit early to say, a bit early to be talking about sackings or anything like that, but he needs to deliver and the team need to deliver quickly. So what better place to start on tomorrow night and clinch a place in this extended Europa League? I mean, the 8 games that you would get through the league phase alone could bring in anything up to £12 million, which is completely game-changing for a club like Hearts. And that's where they want to get to regularly. That's the way they grow the club. So a lot of pressure on this game tomorrow night, especially with the fact that it really is winnable. And it's just a shame they lost that ridiculous own goal in injury time last week. Or I really would fancy them to go through tomorrow night. As it is, it's kind of on a knife edge.
I still fancy them to go through, Scott. I mean, as Fraser says, it was a sucker punch in the last minute, but Plzen, I don't know, I fancy Hearts.
At Tynecastle, if the atmosphere's right on the night and the crowd get behind them, they can beat MD. I mean, me and Fraser have been there before European games when you've maybe not expected them to take it, and then they've done really well. So I think it's all there for them. But no, as you are saying, the manager's under pressure. That's the problem. You would feel a lot more confident if they were getting into this game in the back of some good league wins, gathering a bit of confidence. You heard for that clip there, Steven Naismith talking about an injury to Lawrence Shankland. I mean, if he misses out, that'd be a major blow. So it's not going to be easy, but as Fraser says, it's there for them if they can somehow rally tomorrow night and get that belief back that they had pretty much throughout last season. Once it turned for them quite early in the campaign, then of course they can go and win. And what a result it would be, and what a boost for Hearts and Scottish football if they could get into that Europa League group stage. I
saw them on Sunday against Motherwell, and Naismith said it himself. It's simplistic, but it's so true. They killed themselves in both boxes. The final ball in the final third was infuriatingly bad. Shankland at times, Jan Dand at times, just short with final balls. And the goals conceded for set pieces. Interestingly, Kai Rowell said after the game about needing to get the new guys out wide, the 2 fullbacks, boy in for Colombia, Costa Rica and Gerald Taylor, we've written plenty about, up to speed, and interestingly, better communication. And you do see the 2 set-piece goals come through runners that have come off each of those players. Gerald Taylor for the first one, Salazar for the second one. And you just wonder how much communication is coming into play there for those split-second moments, and that suddenly you find himself 2-0 down. So I don't know what kind of team we'll see tomorrow for Steven Naismith, but the bottom line is they've got the players to win this game. They just need it to click.
Fraser, you've seen them more than me, and everybody has commented on how good Hearts' recruitment was over the summer, right? Getting these boys in for South America, getting the domestic ones in like Dan.
Aye.
And that's right. My feeling just looking at it a wee bit for the Canute side is, I mean, just before we come on, I looked at our squad and he's got 27 players there now. And I get that the whole point was to strengthen the squad because they want to, they want to attack Europe and get third place again.
Yeah.
But it just feels a wee bit muddled to me. You're looking at, he's changing formation, changing system, personnel's changing game to game. I don't know about you, but it feels to me like he's almost got to streamline it a wee bit. Get his best team on the park, get them 3-4 games on the trot, functioning properly. And I think if that happens, then they'll start to kick on.
Always believe that, Scott. Always believe that. I think Ryan Stevenson said that earlier in the summer as well, that it's all right strengthening, bringing in all these new boys, but if you've got too big a squad, it can poison the dressing room. Have bad apples there. Beyond all that, as you say, Naismith needs to know his strongest 11 and stick with it. So it's only fair for the players to get used to each other, get a feel for each other, for the new boys to get used to the system. There has been a lot of chopping and changing. George Grant, for instance, excellent last Thursday over in Czech. Didn't even get a minute at Motherwell on Sunday. You sort of understand the reasoning is wanting to rest, use the squad, rest players so they're no leggy in the Thursday night. But far more important is to get in the rhythm, know your strongest 11 and get them in the rhythm as well.
Before I let you both go, predictions for tomorrow night? Are Hearts going to do it? What's the score going to be?
Oh, to stick. Oh.
Put you in the
stick
spot.
with the team of the week, definitely, maybe. I might say they don't believe in Steven, but hopefully it's all part of the master plan. Come on. Yeah, I fancy them.
What do you think, Scott?
Oh, I think it'll slide away for Hearts, personally.
No!
Listen, in all seriousness, I think it might go all the way. I could see Hearts maybe winning 2-1 on the night and extra time and penalties or whatever. Who knows what might happen. I
think they'll win 2-0, little by little, and then they'll end up going all around the world in the group stages. I'm getting sorry.
When's this finished?
I'm so sorry. Well, right now, actually, that brings us to the end of today's show. I should say, if you wrote in, thank you very much. We'll be back tomorrow. Scott, Fraser, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.